So I don't know. It's fine. It's all good.
All right, YouTube, if you can hear us. Actually, I've got all my devices not within reach / they're being used for the stream. Would one of you jump on the stream and just make sure our audio is good? I messed around with a bunch of settings and I want to make sure that
we are live.
I didn't break anything. So
we are live.
Didn't break
I hear
anything.
You. Hey, all right, good. Thanks.
I'm not going to have us go through an eternal loop.
Inception forever.
Yes.
Forever. What's up, YouTube? It's been a while. Hope you guys are doing well.
I miss you, YouTube.
Yeah.
Larry Page, is that who's in charge of Google? I miss you. Jump on our stream.
Yeah, do it.
Click subscribe. Donate to us.
Yeah, I actually don't think you can donate to us yet, but hopefully, I'm hoping within a couple months that we'll have that.
Let us
available.
Be cool enough to be worthy of donating to.
You can donate to us if you want. Hit me up on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I think somewhere. I think technically, if you hack our website, there's like a donation link there, but like I've turned it off. But you can donate us money and we'll send you merch in return. Which that's called a purchase. That's not a donation, but it's like a donation that's very well rewarded.
If it has to be, if it has to be a transactional donation initially, listen. How is this any different from the NPR campaigns?
Right. Aaron,
it's not.
I feel like you've invented something.
You're buying
new.
the tote bag, basically.
You know, it's like that whole Twitter post that gets shared every now and then. That's like scientists have come up with the idea of using large sails to help ships cross the oceans quicker. Aaron has now come up with the idea of providing an item for somebody's donation of funds.
Yep.
New idea. Yep. Never before thought of.
No one's ever thought about this.
Nope, never.
This is a novel idea.
See, and this is what you get. We're not even like recording the podcast yet. This is what you get if we're on YouTube. You get unsolicited business advice. That's what you get. So, anyways, well, let's see if I got this running. Check. Yep. I think I'm good if you guys are. Any questions on the show notes at all?
No.
Don't think so.
It's pretty straightforward. I threw Ohio State, Michigan on there just since next Thursday is obviously Thanksgiving. I figure that's our chance to actually kind of give a preview of it, which works out because like there's some good games on this week, but it's cupcake week for the SEC and ACC. So
yeah, you guys can take the lead on the Michigan thing. At this point, I'm just frustrated.
All right. Well, I'll get it started then if you guys are all good.
I'm good.
All right. Cool.
Let me check.
Let me record.
Check.
Recording's good on my end. I'm all set.
Oh, mine is not good. This is why we check.
That is why we check. Good job, Josh.
I tell you, I don't update. I do nothing to this thing.
I know.
It doesn't. I say no to updating. I say no to everything, and it still insists. Now we're good.
All right, cool. Welcome to the Fifth and Goal podcast. My name is Aaron. Josh is here. Johnny is here. We are back for another episode. Listeners, welcome to the show. It's episode 134 of the Fifth and Goal podcast. Hope you guys are all doing well. It is Thursday, November 16th, as we're recording, which means that we are 1 week away from turkey and mashed potatoes and stuffing and a Lions win over the Green Bay Packers. Everything's just turning out exactly as it should. Johnny, don't look at me like that. Detroit's look. There's three teams right now in the NFL that have a record.
Johnny, our teams are both sad. Okay, yeah. Actually, I'm okay. For some reason, I'm fine. Your team is sad.
Yeah.
So
depending on how tonight goes.
True. And look, I know most of you listening probably haven't even seen the Lions win on Thanksgiving in your lifetime. I'm slightly being sarcastic, but gosh, they don't win on Thanksgiving very often, but it's a good team. They got a good record. It's them, the Chiefs, and the Eagles with the best record in the NFL right now. So that's good company to have. That's all I'm saying. But Johnny, how's your week going, man? other than that dirty look you gave me when I just even mentioned the fact that the Lions could beat the Packers.
No, they should beat the Packers. They should, but until they do it on Thanksgiving, I wouldn't. Yeah, I would wait before the horse is out of the gate there. But my week's good. As far as like sports go, we had the Crew winning in their playoff game to go to the next round. We got international break. So, no updates really on that. As far as MLS Cup goes, for a little while, got a few weeks off. So no soccer, focusing on the football. Went to Maction last night.
Yeah,
that was awesome. We love Maction. Trying to get my grasp on college basketball as we really start to get into the season. It's confusing tournament season in college basketball. We love those. So I'm good. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better fall in Ohio. So I really can't complain. It was like 65 degrees today.
Yep. I was walking around in t-shirt and jeans because it was like a work event. So I couldn't just go full like shorts and t-shirt.
Oh,
but
there you go.
Maction was awesome.
We used to be a real country, man.
Yeah, I know. Josh, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. FC Dallas is out, and I figured they might be. I had to root for them, obligated to root for them.
Yep.
Put Dak in my fantasy team.
Yeah,
he did pretty okay.
Yep.
And I still lost because I forgot to get a new defense temporarily for the week.
Oh,
so I lost by the amount of points that a halfway decent defense would have gotten me.
Yep.
That's okay. I'm still not absolute last in the league. So whatever punishment we have devised for our group, I am right now safe from.
Yeah.
But now I'm actually finding myself in a situation where, given how the Chiefs have been doing, I might this weekend keep Dak in my starting lineup.
Well, Josh, according to some football people, Dak is the best quarterback in the NFL. And these are people who are paid and on national airwaves saying said things.
And you know why? And you know why they're saying that? It's because they're right. He is so good, and he's so young still. He's only been in the league like 11 years.
Yeah.
So young, still so much
potential.
The ceiling on this guy is yet to be determined.
A&M fans and Dallas Cowboys fans have to be the same exact people. I mean, I'm telling you.
As someone who works with them, you are correct. You are absolutely correct.
They're off. They have amnesia, I swear.
The amount of actual there was a lot of, genuinely with the news that good old Jimbo is no longer that what we thought might happen actually happened, where the donors went, screw it, we're going to drop $100+ million to get this guy gone. As a side note, can we just talk about how I don't even know how killer the announcement was, basically. Because at like halftime during the Mississippi State game, first off, it's been a long time since I've seen, this is just Tangent City. It's the first time I've seen a game where both coaches get fired immediately after it.
Right.
Yeah, I would like an advanced stat on that, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Please and thank you.
I'll get our scouting, I'll get our non-existent stats and info team on that, which is just me scrolling through Twitter, by the way.
It's you later adding it to the post.
Yep.
But at like halftime, the Aggies found the rich donors with oil money, presented a check for $140 million to the campus. And,
is there that much oil in Texas, Josh? I mean, good Lord.
There's more. We don't give you a ton of it. We keep most of it for ourselves because it's cool and we like it.
Yeah.
I mean,
they don't call it Motor City for nothing.
We got so many trucks down here, man. We got to use all this oil down here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But there was genuine, it was a lot of it was like apathy of he probably wasn't going to get us anywhere anyway. But to finally now we're really in play to do some cool stuff. And I'm like, I thought that was for the, why you signed $140 million contracts.
Right.
But I just want to find a way to get paid. I think for the next like 10 odd years, he's going to get paid the equivalent of like $33,000 an hour or day, but I think hour.
And Josh, he's still
Crazy.
going to probably choose to be a football coach somewhere else.
Absolutely.
These guys are sick.
Why
They are
make one
sick.
money? Johnny, frankly, why make one money when you can make two monies?
But that's not usually
Like,
how the
you can
contracts
get-
are
you
even
can
written.
draw-
They don't get
You
more
can draw
money.
one income.
Like usually it like even takes away from their paycheck they're getting from the other school. Like they actually
Then you
still
know
get
what?
paid the same.
And Jimbo, let me encourage you. Find a fun gig. Find just a fun team. I
We
don't know,
got a
find,
cattle ranch in Texas. Dude, just chill with your cattle.
No, go like who needs a coach right now? But like that has no expectations of actually going anywhere. Like doing anything. What's like
Well,
a fun team that like might have their coach on the way out? Does he want to go try and be Iowa's offensive coordinator just for fun?
Oh my gosh. That would be the best like answer to this.
Yeah,
ever.
it would.
Actually,
I like where your head's at, Josh. On that note,
Anyway,
since
Jimbo,
we're talking about
give
it,
the Big Ten
and
a shot.
he's not
Listen,
the only.
it's the Big Ten West. You do not have to try. Actually,
That's true.
you might be able to get that 25 point per game average in your sleep,
Or
given your
by the
competition.
defense.
Why? Easy.
Yep. Since we're on the subject of college football coaches being fired, which is just part of this week, tis the season. We're mid-November. This is when this stuff happens. I've got some thoughts on some other things that happened. But before we talk about other coaches that have been fired, Jimbo Fisher, unsurprisingly, the largest college football buyout ever paid, $75 million. So we're going to play a little quiz game, and you can play this in your car or at work or wherever you're listening to us. We're going to play a game. Can you guess the top five? I gave you number one, Jimbo Fisher, $75 million. Josh and Johnny will use your collective brains. There are four other people on this list. I'll tell you this, Jimbo Fisher's buyout, $75 million. The second place person, 21.5. I mean, Jimbo just won this, and it's not even close. I mean, it's wow.
That COVID year, man. Whew. That really helped him.
So, and I can give you hints if we get stuck. I've got the list in front of me. Top five, with Jimbo being number one, running away with the lead. Numbers 2 through 5. Any guesses?
It's got to still be. I believe Tom Herman's probably on this list.
Tom Herman's number 5. Good guess.
Yeah,
15.4
got to have some more Texas.
million. Texas money keeps flowing. Number 5. Yep.
Okay. Who else? Josh, anyone immediately come to mind here?
This is where I usually, if I don't know an answer, I will try and like make up one on the spot, even if it's funny and like false. I don't even know if I could do that. What I would do is accidentally insult a very good coach who retired under very good circumstances. Be like, oh no, that guy sucked.
Yeah.
Aaron,
yes.
is Gus Malzahn on
Gus
this list?
Malzahn is number 2, 21.
That's
Yeah.
what I was actually going to say. Yeah.
All
Gus Malzahn.
right.
You only have 2 left. One's difficult to get. Number 3, I'll give you guys a hint. Number 3, this coach is a lot less recent. Like the other 5 or the other 4, all pretty darn recent as far as their buyouts.
Is
This
Les Miles on this
is
list?
he's not on this list. That's a good guess.
Ah,
But I think, is it
Dang.
because Les Miles got fired for cause? Is that a thing that happened? I don't know.
well, I don't think it was fired for cause at LSU. I thought that was at Kansas.
Well, right. I'm thinking Kansas may have been more. I don't know. But yeah, you're correct. He's not on this list. Maybe he's number 6.
Okay.
It's a good.
Well, I was thinking the LSU firing because it's the SEC. Dan Mullen?
No, that's a good guess. I'll give you a school. This probably makes it too easy.
Well, wait, how recent, Aaron? How recent?
This is
Yeah.
recent. So one of them is recent as of like 3 years ago. One of them, this happened like a decade ago.
Okay. Give me a sec then with the 3 years.
Yeah.
We can do this, Josh. 3 Willie Taggart.
Yes.
Woo!
Correct.
Nice.
I didn't think you were going to get
All
there.
right.
That's the most difficult one because the other one, this happened about a decade ago. And if I can start giving hints if you guys need it,
About like exactly a decade ago, so it can't be Rich Rodriguez.
It's not Rich Rod, but you're in the right timeline, roughly.
Okay.
He at one point was the coach of the same school that Les Miles once coached. That may have added confusion instead of clarity.
Yeah, that added confusion.
All right.
Because now I'm trying to think through all of the places that.
Yeah.
Wait, is this Mangino?
It's not Mangino.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
You've got the right school.
That'd be great.
You've got the right school.
Who? What?
This
Charlie Weiss.
Yes,
it's Charlie Weiss.
Johnny, well done.
Wait, but it's from Notre Dame's contract, not Kansas, right?
Correct. I'm saying that.
Okay.
He just said coach.
It's like, wait a second.
Yes.
Kansas didn't pay enough for that.
No, he
Please
did go
tell me
6
they
and
didn't.
22 in his 3 years.
Kansas has money.
Though.
Oh yeah, it was terrible.
Oh man, wow, Johnny, you absolutely crushed that. I'm impressed because I don't think I would have been able to do that top 5. So yes, in order and with the dollar figures included: Jimbo Fisher 75 million, Gus Malzahn 21.5, Charlie Weiss 19, Willie Taggart 18, Tom Herman 15.4. Yep.
Wow.
That's a lot of money.
I mean, just wow. Ooh.
Yep.
There is no job better in America than a fired college football coach in the South.
And get this, Jimbo Fisher's, this is according to Matt Brown on Twitter, Jimbo Fisher's $77.5 million buyout, which I think is technically what it was prior to this season. I think he's actually, whatever, doesn't matter. It's more, that money is more than what the entire American and Conference USA conferences made in ticket revenue across every single sport combined. They clocked in at just under 70 million. Texas A&M paid Jimbo $75 million to go away. Now, we talked about in that Texas A&M Mississippi State game that there were 2 firings, and Mississippi State fired their head coach. And Johnny and I, we talked about this on our way to Maction. Like, they didn't even give him a chance. Like, I think they decided that he clearly wasn't the right guy. That was that was a mess. You had obviously the background of all this with Mike Leach's tragic passing. And so there's just like a lot of turmoil in that program right now. I have questions like Mississippi State. Let's be realistic about who you are as a program. Like firing a coach less than a year for going 5-7 or 4-8. Like what are we doing here? And like maybe there's stuff in the locker room. Maybe it's just not a good fit at all. I don't understand. Like he was going to implement a new system. They were going to move away from the air raid offense, which by the way, Mike Leach, I love him as a coach, completely changed the game of football. He was in the SEC, he was never going to have a team better than like 8-4, 9-3, just with the style of offense he ran that didn't play defense enough. It wasn't going to work. Now, I'm not saying that the new system that was trying to be put in place now would have been any different, because let's just face it, if you're Mississippi State, it's an uphill battle unless you want to be like Ole Miss and suddenly out of thin air quotes, have the number 1 recruiting class and beat Alabama in back-to-back seasons. That was money. Like, I don't know. I think we're probably being a little unrealistic if we're Mississippi State. But the other one I want to talk about wasn't a firing, but it was, in a sense, a demotion. So it's been a while since we've talked about Colorado. I think the last time we talked about it, we kind of, each of the 3 of us gave our predicted records for what Colorado would look like. And we did so at a time when Colorado was either in the top 25 or just out of it. We all were, I think maybe at the highest, our record was 6-6. This is a team that could still technically do that, but more than likely they're looking at like a 4 or 5 win season. Whatever. It doesn't matter. We told you at the beginning of the year, they'll win like 4 games. It'll be a vast improvement. And that's true because this team was legitimately one of the worst in college football. They went 1-11. I had no problem with Deion Sanders coming in to that locker room day one and saying to the existing team, hey, you're probably gone. And some people took offense to that. I didn't, because that team was one of the worst in college football.
Terrible team.
And at least he was being upfront with them.
He was being upfront, and the hype worked. He got a couple wins early. It's since died down, as we kind of expected it to, as depth issues have really been pointed out pretty clearly in offensive line, all that. What he did, though, last week, or a little over a week ago, is he took Sean Lewis, who is his offensive coordinator, came over from Kent State, and he basically demoted him, which I did not understand it all, because if you've watched Colorado's games, their problem is not on offense. That offense is humming along, even despite a horrible offensive line. It's fortunate that Shedeur Sanders has stayed as healthy as he has. That specific move worried me, because I think Deion is moving that program in the right direction. How long he's going to stay there is to be seen. But when he decided to just kind of randomly demote his offensive coordinator, that raised a red flag to me. And I don't know what you guys thought about that, but at some point,
also,
he's going to have to show some patience. And I think he's mostly been patient, but that I'm like, ooh, that might be an issue. Because if it's every time something goes wrong, his threat is, and look, the offensive line's bad, but he's basically said like, yeah, we just need a new offensive line next year. He's not wrong. And maybe that's his way to motivate people. He knows that locker room better than I do. But at a certain point, he's going to have to show some patience. And I don't think demoting a really highly sought after offensive mind who was just a head coach at Kent State, it was weird to me.
I don't think that plays well also when your son's the quarterback.
Correct.
I just don't think that's a great look. Yeah. But Sean Lewis, I mean, Aaron, it's like Ken Dorsey firing for the Bills.
You're right.
I mean, how dare he give up over 30 points a game?
Yeah.
As the offensive coordinator, he should be ashamed that the defense gives up over 30 points a game and just has alleys all over the place. And what you just said about the offensive line, it's not a scheme problem. They're just bad. Yep. They're just bad. They don't have the players. They don't have the personnel. They are vastly better this year. Yeah, and what you said, Aaron, honestly, before he did that, I really wasn't concerned about Colorado because it's a long-term project. You can't go from the worst team, the literal worst team in all of Power 5 football to better than 6-6.
Yep.
Like, it just wasn't going to happen.
And moving to
I know he turned right. I know he turned over the entire roster. Aaron, that's a good point. Also, the Pac-12 has been everything we thought it could be this year. It's been fantastic. In a normal Pac-12 year, they probably are 6-6 or 7-5 this season. But unfortunately for them, they have two juggernauts at the top of the league, and there's really strong depth as well. So I felt like this was very short-sighted. Also, putting Pat Shurmur in charge of the offense is a terrible idea because did you watch his offenses for the Giants? Terrible. So I am concerned about that. I mean, Sean Lewis is not going to stick around if that remains the case. And he shouldn't. He shouldn't. I mean, there's got to at least be 30 schools, probably Power 5 schools that would think about bringing Sean Lewis in. I mean, after what he showed early on in the season. So it didn't make sense to me. Neither did the Ken Dorsey firing, honestly, to me as well.
Yeah.
So
'tis the season. I can't wait to see who Texas A&M pays $100 million
to. Can't wait. Maybe I do love that for some reason. I mean, it could have been apropos of nothing, but the Colorado statement about how many things about how Coach Prime is going to stay because he has so many things in Colorado that the way it came across is I have too many things. I don't want to move again, frankly. I just got my address updated. Guys, I'm not leaving.
It's very understandable.
Absolutely.
Very understandable.
Yeah. Very understandable. I love it.
Aaron, the one that hasn't happened yet, though, that is getting reported on and will, I would assume, happen if they lose to USC, though, this weekend, is Chip Kelly with UCLA. And frankly, I think that might be the dumbest firing of the college football season, even worse than Arnett, to me. I know you might disagree with that, but UCLA, okay, I'll give A&M fans credit here. Their expectations are reasonable to what they provide the school and that athletic department and that football team. They don't want for facilities. They don't want for NIL money. They don't want for honestly, because of the money, talent on the field. They are up there with Georgia and Ohio State and Alabama in those 5-star recruits the last several seasons with NIL. Their boosters and their alumni and their fan base do everything that you would ask of a school and a program to do. So as absurd as that money is, their expectations are at least in line with what they are giving and providing their football coach. UCLA is not doing that. UCLA is not providing that effort and support. Have you seen the Rose Bowl on a college football Saturday?
Sad.
It's awful. They're not behind this team. But for some reason, the athletic administration is expecting Chip Kelly to be competing with Oregon and Washington and USC. That's not possible. That's not possible. And also historically, that's not what UCLA is. So they don't have the tradition to really fall back on. I'm not saying that UCLA has just been this horrendous program, but honestly, let's be honest about it. UCLA historically is 7-5 on a regular basis. Yeah. That's UCLA. And so that makes no sense to me. I don't, doing it right before you enter the Big Ten and to have this conversation after you're playing your third string quarterback. And I get losing to the Arizona schools isn't good. You were already starting a true freshman quarterback. Mm-hmm. Your backup plan's hurt too. You go down to your third string quarterback. I don't think that's fair to hold it against him. Yeah. It's all about him not playing well with boosters, and it's gotten personal.
And that's a big deal.
But I think this is just dumb. I thought it was a home run hire when they got him. It's a long-term process, and UCLA is one of those schools that you just have to hope pops and is able to go 10-2, 11-1 every 4 or 5 years or so. They're not going to be perennially at the top. I know that's really hard for LA to hear, but that's the reality of UCLA. So rant over. I just thought that was really, really, really dumb to hear. And I don't expect him to beat USC, and so I expect him to probably be fired on Monday.
Relative to your team's actual expectations, hold on, I burped. That's not professional. Relative to a team's heritage and reasonable expectations for an upcoming season, or maybe the upcoming 5 or 10 years, you have to have a sliding scale for what constitutes as progress per year. It's so much more holistic than what I've seen in our past 3 coaches we've talked about with demotions and firings and potential firings. Is I think Jimbo was justified, but I think a lot of times what I see is on the other hand, I see a lot of, I see a lack of patience with a lot of the process of hey, we're figuring this out. The transfer portal is new. The NIL stuff is very new. That UCLA is going to start joining, yet another traditionally football heavy conference. There's a lot of new happening. And it is unreasonable to go, okay, we need to be 8 or 10 wins. Now, at the same time, I'm thinking Nebraska. Nebraska did not expect to immediately be New Year's Six eligible this year. Now, in 3 or 4 years, they might, because that's the heritage. They are a blue blood when it comes to this stuff. They have a reasonable expectation of being dominant within college football, but not immediately. Ideally, they're going to have patience. That being said, I was seeing today, I know the focus is on Michigan, but say Ryan Day drops Michigan 3 years in a row. I would expect, since Franklin has now lost again to Michigan last week, I guess we'll talk about that in a second.
Yep.
I might expect his name to maybe start popping up in the hot seat if that's something that Penn State values. And from what I can tell, they do value beating consistently Ohio State and Michigan to at least get into the college football playoffs conversations. With James Franklin, doesn't look like that's ever going to happen. His seat now might be hot. However, I don't think a seat like UCLA, where they are, should be equally as hot.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
And that's one of those things. Josh, I'm glad you brought the Penn State thing into this, because that's literally what I had on next to talk about. Because if you are Penn State, what are your, and they've got a new athletic director there and a new president,
Yeah.
I think all of the above. So this answer may have changed for them, but what are your expectations, Penn State? Like, I know every program's saying win a conference championship, win a national championship, or I mean, every Power 5 school, right? But
Of course.
But if you strap them to a lie detector, what would they say their actual expectations are? Because Penn State, obviously, that game did not go well against Michigan. We kind of all we all saw that one coming. We talked about that last week. And here's the funny thing with Penn State. There's a lot of outcry, yes, from their own fans. Like you saw the insults that were getting hurled at James Franklin as he was leaving Beaver Stadium. But I think it's worth noting, Brett McMurphy tweeted this out. He said, Penn State is 8-2 this season, but more people watch the Nittany Lions 2 losses than its 8 wins combined based on the ratings. So basically, 19.1 million viewers in the Penn State games against Ohio State and Michigan, both losses, 17.5 in their 8 wins. So part of it is, like, you hear all this stuff about, oh, James Franklin can't do this, he can't do that. And that's true. His record is horrendous against Ohio State and Michigan. But I do wonder, the public perception is so against him, partially because most people are only tuning into those games and those games alone. And I'm not necessarily taking a stance where I defend him, because, look, if you are Penn State and you really think like you should be on the same level as Ohio State and Michigan, and for that matter, Oregon, Washington, Georgia, Alabama, any of these teams that are right in the mix, then you probably do need to move on from James Franklin, because I think you've found the limit of what he's able to do. But at the same time, James Franklin, probably by the end of this year, is going to have 5 double-digit win seasons. He's never had a losing season. He has a Big Ten championship. They have 4 AP top 10 finishes, 3 New Year's 6 bowl wins. 99% of other programs within the Power 5 would kill for that. You're telling me right now a Mississippi State, who just fired their head coach, would look at that, they'd say, sign me up. Where do I sign? Every school. Texas A&M would say that. Texas A&M is obviously
for the
publicly
moment
saying, oh, we're going undefeated, we're winning everything. Texas A&M would love to just get to a New Year's 6 or have a 10-win season. They got close in, what, was that 2020? Or 2021?
Yeah, the COVID year, they finished 5th.
Yeah, they got close.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, like, yes, I understand why that seat is hot. I don't disagree. But I think if you're Penn State, before you pull the trigger and decide to fire him, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, is this legitimately where we are as a program? Is there another step to be taken? I don't know. It's tough.
I think there is, Aaron. I mean, I can answer for Pennsylvania is not that far off of Ohio when it comes to in-state talent.
Yep.
And Virginia's right there, and you're bordering Ohio, and you have the funds. And we're not even talking about being Ohio State, but could you beat them once every 4 years?
Right.
Yeah.
They're not even in line to do that right now.
Yep.
Could you make the playoff or the Big Ten title game once every 4 years? We're
And now
not
the
doing
playoff
that
expanding,
right now.
That's a whole different thing too, and that's part of the conversation.
And
because
that will be interesting because Penn State would have been in like 5 times.
Mhm.
So
So
those 5 double-digit
that
win
will
seasons,
be
they're probably in every
yes.
year. Yep.
And that will be interesting to just see how teams define, because I have understood this argument from several people, how teams define success will now change. Because at least the coaches then will be, well, I'm in the playoff every year. So someone like James Franklin is probably going to benefit maybe more than anyone else with
James
the expansion
Franklin
of the playoff.
becomes the new Mike Tomlin, where he's like, "Hey, I'm not giving you guys losing seasons. I'm
Yeah,
giving us
really.
within a breath of the playoffs." And you know what?
He'll
real
be in the
close.
playoffs every year.
He'll be dominant one of those 12 years.
Yeah.
And like, hey, that's enough. Also fire Mike Canada.
The funny thing is, like, I feel like Mississippi
Just gotta get
State,
that one in
if
there
they
real
were
quick.
if Mississippi State was in Penn State's situation right now, I think they'd take that for eternity.
Mhm.
I think Texas A&M gets to that Penn State level, and it's only a matter of time before their donors and boosters would get ticked off that they're not winning a national title.
Mhm.
I think that's probably the difference in those teams. Penn State, historically, resources, recruiting, in-state talent, location. I know State College is in the middle of nowhere, but you're not far away from recruiting hotbeds. They should be competing for a national title. They should be able to beat Michigan. I tweeted out during the game, the coaches are failing the players. Yes. They even have the talent on the field right now to beat Ohio State and Michigan. They have the talent right now. James Franklin just in game, terrible. They were one of the teams that it was so funny. A&M was actually another one of those teams that tweeted out when Harbaugh got the suspension late on Friday that said, can we get the suspension for our team too? Basically saying, I think we'd be undefeated if we could get our head coach suspended during the game. He can do all the recruiting. He can do all like everything else. I just don't want him making the decisions on game day. Truthfully, James, if this is what happens, because he's not getting fired this year, I think this is a next year question, really, I think, for James Franklin. Like, I would be stunned if he got, that contract extension is still very hot off the press. Penn State, Big Ten schools just aren't usually ones to want to pay that SEC buyout, which is fine. If Chip Kelly gets fired, man, go get him. Go get him. Go get him to be your offense. You got Manny Diaz as your defensive coordinator, who's been a home run. You get Chip Kelly to be your offensive coordinator and take your hands off the steering wheel and allow Chip to run the offense. Don't touch it.
Stat on that.
Let him do it. And Penn State, I guarantee if you hired Chip Kelly as your offensive coordinator, you will win a Big Ten title in 2 years, probably, in my opinion.
You're right about the offensive coordinator. Number one, because there's a vacancy right now. Mike Yurcich was fired.
Right.
He was the 5th offensive coordinator in the last 10 years. So, yes, part of the blame is certainly on him. Johnny, you said it. James Franklin, stop micromanaging your offensive coordinators. Now, I don't think all 5 of them were fired. I don't have the exact list in front of me. I'm sure some left. Like, I think Joe Moorhead
took a head coaching job. Mississippi State, actually.
So, with that in mind, James Franklin, get out of the way, man. Get out of the way.
He's just in the way. He's just in the way.
But
he gets another year. But if next year occurs the exact same way, when you get almost all these guys back, you get Ohio State at home next year. Oh, buddy, you better figure it out. You better figure it out with those new additions coming to the conference. So
if Drew Aller shows no progression, which he really hasn't from last year to this year, if that's the same case again, yikes. And some of that's on him, but it's hard to really nitpick him when this has been a common theme.
Yeah, he's a kid. He's 19. It's his first year starting. Help him out. That's what the coaching staff's for. Put your players in position to make plays. They don't do that.
Well, speaking of the other main team in the Big Ten, we are, of course, talking about Michigan. And for the moment, I think we've actually kind of wrapped up a chapter of many more to come. But we've wrapped up a chapter of this. Between recordings, we didn't even get to talk about this last week because the Big Ten suspended Jim Harbaugh for 3 games. He's allowed to coach during the week, but not allowed to coach on the sideline. That dropped on Friday. We record on Thursdays. That dropped on Friday, less than 24 hours before Michigan was set to play Penn State, which the timing of that is wild. The punishment's weird, all that. So here's the latest on that, because there's more breaking news on that today. Michigan basically saw that and said, excuse me, Big Ten, we don't like this. We'd like to examine this further in court. So this is a lot of people are reporting the same information, so I don't know who reported it first. But here's the statement. I believe this is Michigan's statement. It says, this morning, referring to this morning as in Thursday, Thursday, November 16th, this morning, the university, Coach Harbaugh, and the Big Ten resolved their pending litigation. The conference agreed to close out its investigation, and the university and Coach Harbaugh agreed to accept the 3-game suspension. Coach Harbaugh, with the university's support, that's nice of you, decided to accept this sanction to return the focus to our student athletes and their performance on the field. The conference has confirmed, this is a key point here, the conference has confirmed that it is not aware of any information suggesting Coach Harbaugh's involvement in the allegations. The university continues to cooperate fully with the NCAA's investigation. So let me break down. There's a lot here. The last sentence, the university continues to cooperate fully with the NCAA's investigation. That's a key piece here, because what was settled, quote unquote, was the Big Ten's piece in this. The NCAA can still rule. They can still add punishment. There's other things going on. There's even rumors, and not necessarily credible rumors, but still rumors that there's betting stuff happening within Michigan. Like, it's a mess.
Probably is at every school, if we're being honest.
Certainly.
But
certainly.
when you invite the FBI and the NCAA to campus, they're going to find everything.
Yeah. NCAA recently at Central Michigan too for that whole thing. So, but let me digest some, or help us digest some of this. Michigan, when this dropped, came out guns blazing on Twitter, everywhere. Their president tweeting bet, all of their players tweeting bet, their president coming out and basically saying
a eulogy
there's no due
on
process.
Saturday.
The Big Ten is
Josh,
abusing their authority.
He's
dead.
Passed away, yeah.
He died.
Jim Harbaugh's not with
The
us anymore.
overflow of support that we have received in the past 24 hours.
He's no longer with us.
Meanwhile, Harbaugh's at like a Denny's like down the street, just like, refreshing Gamecast. Like, oh, come on.
Yep. I mean, we talked about this in our group chat. No one brainwashes players better than college football. I don't know how they do it.
No one.
Georgia did this last year, where somehow every kid on that team was convinced that outside people were predicting them to go 8-4, when at the worst, someone was predicting a 10-2 record and second in the SEC East. Right?
Whoa.
Michigan, I mean, they've got this assistant coach who's stepping in, and he's bawling after the game like Jim Harbaugh died. Like,
this is for you, man.
Bro cheated. Or at least
he's fine. He's on the bus right now.
Yeah. Or at the very
But
least,
Aaron,
wasn't aware
overcoming
that
adversity.
Yeah.
They're overcoming adversity.
Overcoming the consequences of my own actions. Yeah.
And not to sidetension this too much.
Technically, yes. Adversity.
It's not bad.
Your own adversity
yeah.
that you created.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Not to sidetension this too much, because I'll get back to this quote to break it down. But Jim Harbaugh obviously got ridiculed a little bit for calling Michigan America's team. I actually think that's a great description, because who is America's team in the NFL? It's the Dallas Cowboys. And what are the Dallas Cowboys known for? They're known for annoying fans. They're known for completely crumbling in the playoffs. And they're known for basically everyone disliking them. All three of those things apply to Michigan right now. So I think it's actually very fitting. Jim Harbaugh's bowl record, terrible. Playoff record, terrible. They're America's team.
Do you know their win record in like big games is pretty much the same in the past like 10 years as Michigan State's?
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh still hasn't even won a New Year's Six bowl game at this point.
Exactly. He's won one.
What does he have? One bowl game total against like who?
One.
Like South Carolina or something?
No, I think
he didn't win that one.
Did they win that one? I don't think he won that one.
No, but
didn't win the culture war on that one because.
Yeah. Anyways, so I'll rewind us, direct us back on this path. So this statement. This is where I was, because I talked about everyone guns blazing. And the biggest thing was the president and all these people at Michigan are saying the Big Ten has overstepped their authority. There's no due process. And it's as if, let me paint you a picture. It's as if Michigan and Big Ten finally sat down together. And in my imagination, this is how this went. The Big Ten laid out all of the evidence that they have against Michigan. And Michigan had no choice but to accept. Because why else do you just simply accept this thing with no reference to even the Big Ten overstepping their authority now? All of a sudden, that's gone. They're like, yep, it's okay. It's okay. We're doing this for our student athletes, for them to focus. Yeah, that's not what happened. The Big Ten has overwhelming evidence, and you had no choice. And this was your way to get this done and over with. You're telling me that Michigan is just okay with Jim Harbaugh not being on the sidelines against Ohio State? There's no way that if they had a chance to win, they would fight tooth and nail to get him on the sideline for Ohio State. It's not happening. He's not going to be there when they play Maryland this week. He's not going to be in Ann Arbor when they play Ohio State. The Big Ten.
How bad is that evidence, Aaron?
Yeah.
How bad is that evidence?
What you can't do is you cannot scream due process And then when the rules of the Big Ten allow you to have a look into the legal system, to just roll over and say, oh no, it's okay, we'll take our punishment. Something happened. And to me, the something is obvious. The Big Ten had all the ammunition and it was empty threats from Michigan, and the Big Ten came up victorious. I use that in quotations because it's not like the Big Ten's trying to beat Michigan. I think they just have what they need to.
I think the receipts are there.
Yep.
Well, it's interesting because you read the Michigan statement.
Mm-hmm.
I have the Big Ten statement in front of me, and the Big Ten statement has a slightly different use of the tense. Big Ten's conference commitment, blah, blah, blah. You have your standard opening. Today's decision by the University of Michigan to withdraw its legal challenge against the conference's November 10th notice of disciplinary action is indicative of things. It's cool. Now we're going with, he said, she said type stuff. But the way the Big Ten is wording it too, which is very much Michigan's trying to hide it, but I think both are true. Michigan has, again, a fantastic law school.
Yeah.
Like genuinely one of the best law schools. I say this every year, or every week. Now that we're in this, I hate that they have one of the oldest manuscripts of the New Testament. They have Papyrus 46. I don't know why they have it. I should have it at this point for my toil and trouble. But like they have some really solid, very smart people, and they couldn't get out of this. And so for them to withdraw and accept the decision is not a good sign. Mm-hmm. All I'm seeing now is basically whataboutism online. Oh, well, what about all those other people who were cheating?
Right.
That's what it's always been.
What it's become is like, well, I guess we cheated, but you need to be punished too because you cheated. Well, we didn't. Theoretically, yeah, everyone is stealing signs. That's you. Like we talked about this 2 weeks ago. There are dedicated sign stealers. That's part of the game. Even Aaron yourself, you said that you would probably change up signs in your basketball games.
Yeah, we did
in high school.
Yeah.
Once you realized, oh, they probably know what's coming.
Yep.
That's not cheating. That's observation. Mm-hmm. That's just like putting the pieces together. That's standard during the game. So it is interesting to note. Michigan has claimed that Connor Stalions did not file any expense reports for his time there.
That doesn't make
which is
sense.
Cool. Which I mean, in my mind, is inconclusive. That could mean either he filed through a different source or they knew it was wrong. So why is he going to file an expense report? Right. Hey, can you reimburse me $15,000 for these tickets I bought to other teams?
Yeah, right.
It's obviously not going to go through the standard HR thing. So,
I look forward to finding out what the NCAA gives Michigan in 5 years.
I hope it's better.
It should be this off season, but
it's the
NCAA. Don't hold your breath.
They've been quick, and let's talk about that real quick because the NCAA sometimes is very speedy on the decisions that matter, which is whether or not teams that are really good can be bowl eligible. This is my straight to jail because I don't know if I want to fit it into because my what I'm following is
Josh.
fun,
which of the 4 committees are you throwing in jail?
All of them.
That reviewed this.
All of them.
Yeah. Which of the 4 committees? 4 committees to decide if a team who has 10 wins should be able to go to a bowl game. 4 committees.
It should be 2 guys in a room going, "Oh, dang, these guys are good." Yeah. Hit the yes button. I don't know. The green, the flip the switch they have in their office. That lets them be ranked. I don't know.
So dumb.
4 committees.
Like, again, this is one of those things. Everyone agreed that this is stupid. Everyone. And how rarely does that happen on Twitter, especially?
This is the first point of unity I have seen.
Yeah.
This calendar year.
Seriously.
We're in November.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's sad. It applies to Jacksonville State too. And I think Tarleton, who's in the FCS, they recently jumped up from Division 2 to Division 1. I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense in college basketball. We'll yell about that again in March. It doesn't make sense here.
Yep.
If the rule is simply that a team can't go from Division 1 to Division 2, then make the postseason ban then. Like, what are we doing? This makes no sense.
Aaron, did you see that update today, though? the Attorney General of the state of Virginia is threatening to file a lawsuit against the NCAA because James Madison, if you're not familiar, is in Virginia. So their Attorney General for the state is threatening a lawsuit. And I will say the one thing the NCAA does seem to respond to is the threat of lawsuits.
Correct.
So
because they lose every one of them.
Fingers crossed. And honestly, if they win it for James Madison, I feel like they win it for Jacksonville State and Tarleton too, because you can't just, allow James Madison in then and not the other two. So, hey, go Virginia Attorney General. Is he probably just trying to score cheap political points? Yeah. I don't care.
Election season.
Do the right thing.
Do it. Yeah. Do it.
Get them in there. Get them in the playoff. Screw just a bowl game.
Yeah.
Get them in the playoff.
Get them in the playoffs. Switch out Michigan.
Yeah. Put James Madison in the playoff. The 4 committee thing is frustrating for a variety of different reasons, but one I think is because I just want some chairperson or someone
how many committees are actually involved
visible for a reporter to ask him or her a question. Why? I want a good reason.
Yeah.
All we've heard is NCAA denied. Why? I need a reason.
Right.
Because this is stupid. I need a reason. So
Aaron, even when we disagree with the NBA or NFL, there's always a statement.
Yep.
And even if it's not the commissioner himself dealing it out, it's the deputy commissioner, and they sign their name to it. We might not even get a press conference or anything, but where the punishment's coming from, who it's coming from. There's no, you can disagree with the decision, but at least it's very cut and dry, the process and who is doing it. You're absolutely right. The outcries probably created a 5th committee here. So, how to deal with everybody being angry and hating the NCAA about this situation. There's probably now a 5th committee. So I hate that anyway. Everyone hates that.
It's terrible.
Hold on one sec, guys. So sorry. Oh, yeah, that's an email from, turns out there's a 6th committee to determine the validity of the 5th committee. I just got invited to that.
Oh, Josh, you're on the inside now. Yes.
I'm on the validity committee, so we're good. I made it.
The validity committee? I hate that. That's the word.
I hate everything about that.
Well, for the 1000th time, straight to jail, NCAA. I've got a straight to jail, but I'll save it for what I'm following. We have some actual college football coming up this week. The big one to watch is Washington at Oregon State. I think we're probably all collectively putting Oregon State, really Washington, on upset alert, because going to Corvallis against a very good Oregon State team, this team's not getting enough love nationally. I think they beat either Washington or Oregon. They play them in back-to-back weeks, but this game's at home for the Beavers. I think they pull it off. But we'll see. If they do, that throws the Pac-12 into just a bit more chaos, but TBD there. I will say this now.
Would you like to know the line, Aaron?
Yeah, I would love to know the line. Tell me.
Oregon State is favored by 2.5 at home right now.
Yep.
Prime time, ESPN. I think everybody's expecting Washington just skating by to finally catch up with them. So that'll be a good time.
Yep. Well, I'll say this too, and I probably should have said this at the top. We will not have an episode next week because we regularly record on Thursdays, and next Thursday is, of course, Thanksgiving. So enjoy Thanksgiving. It does mean that we will not be previewing the Ohio State-Michigan game next week. So we've said enough. I think also partially looking at the length of this episode, we've said quite a bit about this matchup throughout the last few weeks. I don't know if we have a lot to add. It really comes down to, it's going to be an interesting game, just the way Ohio State's playing offense. Can you stop Michigan's running game? Because look, what we didn't mention about that Michigan-Penn State game is the fact that Michigan did not have a statistical pass attempt for the last 36 minutes of that game. They just ran the ball. How embarrassing for Penn State. I mean,
that is.
Yeah, that's tough.
They had this. If this was any, they had them.
Yeah.
This was their one opportunity. This is. I don't want to get angry at Franklin again, but this was Franklin's one opportunity to go. You know what? This is a gimme. This is almost a gimme.
Yeah, it's a
team that doesn't know what
game. Yeah. Anyways, so if Ohio State lets that happen, that's going to get awkward fast. But I think it's going to be it's always a physical game, but really more than ever, you're going to have two teams just trying to bash their head into the opposing team more regularly and with more ferocity. At the end of the day, Ohio State's got the best player in the field. They've got Marvin Harrison Jr., but will he be able to overcome Michigan being able to control the time of possession? It's all going to get real interesting. That Ohio State defense has been really good, and they're going to be needed more than ever.
Yep. Ohio State's defense is kind of a bend don't break, but the issue with that in this type of game is Michigan will go on a 7 or 8 minute field goal drive, and that can just sap the energy. It's in Ann Arbor. Michigan is currently a 5.5 point favorite. We don't have a total, but I would take the under probably no matter what it is.
Yep.
It's probably going to be around 38.5 or so. Ohio State's interior, is of that defensive line is going to be absolutely crucial in stopping that run game to where they don't have to devote extra resources down in the interior and allow McCarthy to torch them in the backfield, downfield like he did last year. I don't have a great feeling about this game. I think most fans, if they're honest with themselves, are quite nervous about it. Being in Ann Arbor doesn't help. Marvin is the best player on the field, but being at a position like wide receiver where you're so reliant on somebody to get you the ball does affect even his ability to be effective. We've seen that in plenty of other games so far this year too. So I just have a hard time trusting Kyle McCord enough to make the right plays at the right time to win this game. But I will never say that Michigan's going to win. So I will not say that.
Yeah, you didn't hear that here.
Forbidden.
A team that we do think is going to win is Georgia. They are at Tennessee, and Tennessee is still a good year. I think a lot of Volunteers fans are like, "Oh my gosh, we're terrible." I'm like, hey, you guys, chill. You're going like 8-4 this year. That's a good year, especially the way Tennessee has been. So rather than pick Georgia, Tennessee, because we'd all pick Georgia, we're going to pick the score itself. But before we do that, real quick, our current standings, I've got 67 points. Johnny's got 65. Josh, you have 64 because you correctly predicted the winner of the Asheville Championship. Clemson won the Asheville Championship. Johnny and I picked Maryland, who went 0-2 in that tournament. So that almost feels like we should get a negative point there, but because I'm in the lead, I'm not going to do that to us. So the score is getting real close. Josh is really snuck up on us here. So I'll start. I've got the Bulldogs 45-20. I think that they just completely whitewash Tennessee. I think this is going to get out of hand fast, and maybe Tennessee gets a garbage touchdown at the end to hit that 20-point mark with a bunch of Georgia backups. But Georgia, and look, I think Ole Miss was overrated. We all kind of talked about that last week, but Georgia looked like the number one team. They should have always been the college football playoff number one team. We've had them number one in the 5th and goal poll for several weeks now. No doubt, Georgia looks real tough. Alabama's playing really well. That's going to be a huge SEC championship clash. We'll talk about that next episode, but I've got the Bulldogs 45-20.
I have a similar proportion of game. I will say Georgia sometimes has a habit of starting slower than preferable, and this has been something that Georgia and Alabama have gone back and forth on. So I will say that Tennessee gets an early touchdown and then continues to do nothing until the fourth quarter and gets another field goal for some reason. Georgia 35-10.
Okay.
None of our scores are like super different. I have Georgia 38-17. It is in Knoxville, so I will give Tennessee that. I won't be surprised if they're able to stick around 10-point margin for much of this game just because of that. And also, in fairness, Georgia doesn't necessarily just blow you away with their offense. They're very good, but they're just not high-flying offense. That's just not their style. Tennessee's actually very improved on the defensive line. They don't have a 35-year-old
as their quarterback anymore. So
yeah. Tennessee actually will be one of the best defensive lines that Georgia has faced this year. So I just don't see Tennessee scoring on Georgia much. Josh, your 10 could honestly be straight, like right on. I'm going to say 17 for Tennessee, just late touchdown. I think Georgia's going to pack it up pretty quickly in this game, honestly. So I'm going to go 38-17 as my final score there. Georgia probably could make it worse. It would be worse in Athens, but I just don't agree with the betting line at 10 points in this one. That's kind of shocking to me.
Get your Monopoly money out, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A reminder for how the points work here. You get a point if you're the closest. You also get a bonus point if you hit it right on the nose, which I don't think that's ever happened to us in the 133 prior episodes. So, but we'll see. Maybe this will be the time that happens. All right. It's what we're following. Guys, I'm following the Winter Classic. So one of the cool things that the NHL does routinely is they play games outdoors, just in the snow, usually in Canada or kind of the northern United States. There's been games all over. It's really sweet because obviously the NHL is one of those rare, or hockey itself is one of those rare sports that can actually do this, an indoor sport that plays outdoors. Basketball, it's like 50-50 whether they'll be able to play outside with the weather conditions. Hockey, it's a little bit better of a percentage. So reports are that the NHL took a visit to our beloved Ohio Stadium over the weekend as a potential site for an outdoor game, which is awesome. It probably means that the Blue Jackets would be involved in a game like that, and they would subject the national TV audience to watching them. Awesome. So that's unfortunate for you, the viewers, but for the Blue Jackets, for fans of hockey in Columbus, of which there's a lot, I'll give you credit, Blue Jackets fans. You're dedicated, even though that team has no hope of ever being good. Really sweet. And Michigan had it in their stadium. That was, I think, the most fans ever in an NHL game. The Buckeyes won't be able to top that quite, but they might get second place for that, which is still pretty darn sweet to have 100,000 plus at a hockey game. If this happens, I will try to get tickets myself because I think that'd be really sweet. So that's part A of what I'm following. Part B, did you guys... I did. Johnny or Josh,
I saw this.
Did you grow up watching Sports Nation at all?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Maybe?
Yeah. It was just such a fun show because you had like a mix of like actual sports conversation. You had what was it? It wasn't the not top 10. What did they do? They had like fails. I don't even remember what they called it, but they had like a fail thing where it's just like bloopers that happened. They had like the BS meter where basically if a coach gave off a soundbite, they just rank like how much of a lie is this. It's just a great show. And it's been kind of defunct for a while. They kind of kept it going sort of. Well, recently within the last week, rather than just make a new account, ESPN said, hey, let's take that Sports Nation account on social media that has, I don't know, 5 million followers ish. And let's just transform it into our new ESPN Bet account. And look, I'm not.
Oh, that's what it was?
Yeah, that's what. Oh
happened. My gosh.
And we're not necessarily against betting. Like we tell you to be very wise. We tell you to use Monopoly money, but Johnny and I, we watch a lot of college football and we know a thing or two, and we try to make money when we have the chance. Like Georgia, a 10-point favorite. I'm probably going to try to win some money on that. That being said, number one, I just have an issue with kind of that sort of takeover. That was just very jarring, and I didn't want to see that. Number two, the conflict of interest here of ESPN running their own, and by no means is this the only conflict of interest in the sports betting industry, but the conflict of interest in ESPN owning the contracts to the biggest conference in college football, the SEC, while also running their own sports book. I don't know. I don't know. A little shady.
Only ends well.
And mostly, so straight to jail for just the whole thing in itself, but also because you killed Sports Nation. That was a great show. I feel sad for people that didn't have the chance to grow up watching that show because it was just so much fun. It's the way sports should be. It was a mix of good sports talk, random bloopers, just random segments. It was great. I miss Sports Nation. RIP, straight to jail, ESPN.
Speaking of sports, I'm actually going to do sports this time.
Ooh.
Joke. Welcome to Chess Heads.
Yay.
I got you there for a second. This is the podcast within a podcast profiling the latest and greatest within all the sports adjacent activities that we as humans love to do. And I got a whole list of things for you today. The very good people at the NCAA. Ignore what we just said. I'm taking them right back out of jail for a second.
I'm not.
All the really good people.
I'd never grant them parole.
Have been so kind for the podcast. Again, I have pure and sole authority. So they are not in jail today for the podcast, for my podcast, which is not your podcast. And then they'll go right back to jail. But it's like, I don't know. I've never seen a jail prison movie. I'm assuming there's like, like the 10 minutes of outside time they get, there's that one scene where they're outside and talking. This is that one scene. NCAA has been so gracious to allow the schools that they represent to really do whatever they want and call it a sport and do it intercollegiately and competitively. So I'm going to give you some of the 2022 and 2023 NCAA champions and all the sports that, frankly, I would want to see. We have standard things like Air Force having the men's boxing championship. We have Cincinnati men's disc golf championship. Let's see. What is this? Baldwin Wallace getting the women's racquetball championship. Air Force again. This is going to be cheating. Skydiving. They have the skydiving championship, which I feel
That
like
is cheating.
I don't know how anyone else ever gets that. Georgia Tech mascot dance.
Nice.
That's fun. Now we get into some of the fun ones. UCF paintball. I love that.
Ooh.
Some intercollegiate paintball would kill. I would pay ESPN so much money to see that. Texas A&M won in meat judging. Not to be outdone by Kansas State, which won in meat animal evaluation. Those are different and distinct.
Right.
Let's see. Notre
Josh, do
Dame
you have the Ohio State one on there?
Oh, I have so many Ohio State ones, guys.
I love the Ohio State one.
Ohio State has a few. They have, let's see, the first one, they have synchronized swimming. No disrespect, boring. They have Microsoft Excel.
Yeah,
they won those Microsoft Excel championships.
Oh, no, I'm embarrassed.
They did. It's real.
I'm not. I'm so proud.
Johnny,
I've never been prouder of Ohio
so
State.
good. It's so good. I'm like, that's the one I actually want us to win. They also have Bollywood fusion dance. They have the national championship.
That's
for
the one I
Bollywood
wanted.
fusion dance.
Yep.
Frankly, I'm trying to think of anything else here that is like Penn U curling. So if you want to go to a good curling school, and we want you to go to a good curling school, if you're looking at graduating in the spring from high school, or you're 35 and you just need a change in life, re-enroll in college, go to Penn U, join their curling program.
Yep.
Easy to go to Penn, not hard to get in at all.
Two more. Clemson won dairy tasting. Not testing, tasting.
Big
I don't
difference
know
there.
if that's
one's way more fun.
I wonder if that's just like a milk drinking competition. Like dairy tasting sounds like the fancy version of what is actually
not
like a
dying. Gets points.
Exactly. And finally, Nebraska has the championship in the Lincoln Douglas debate.
What? Huh?
The University of Nebraska has the national championship for. It says here, Lincoln Douglas debates.
Wow.
I have lots of questions there.
I don't know who. I don't know how.
Lots of questions.
Lots of questions. If you're from Nebraska or you're an alum, tell us what that is. And if you don't know what it is, make it up anyway. That's it. That's Tennessee won cornhole.
Seems about right.
But South Carolina won cornhole doubles. So
Nice.
I don't know what's more important for you.
Well, working with a teammate is very important.
I think
I don't really have anything that I'm following this week. So I thought in lieu of that, I would just quickly read off of the, we're only 2 weeks away from the end of the season, and we won't have another podcast until the season's over. So I also wanted to give a shout out to these teams because they won't be talked about and their seasons will be over by the time we have our next podcast. So I'm going to rank will tell you what my rankings are for the bottom 10 teams in the entire FBS. And again, this is out of love for these teams. I love these teams, but you deserve this. So let's start off at number 10. Number 10. And I will also say, most of these teams, you deserve to be on this list because you lost to an FCS school. Don't do that. And some of these teams can still move up, though. They have chances to win and get out of the bottom 10. So number 10, Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee, what a shame, man. What a shame. Number 9, New Mexico. Yeah. I mean, when 2 of your wins are against UMass and Hawaii and the other one, FCS, good. Not good. I will say this was also very hard, though, because we don't have an Ofer team this year. So there's not like a just nobody's won a game so far this year. We'll get to my biggest disappointment, though. They won't be ranked number 1, but my biggest disappointment later. So number 9, New Mexico. Number 8 is sadly the team one of the teams I watched last night, which is it's a brutal ranking because they don't look this bad on television, but it's a very competitive list. Buffalo, you lost to Fordham. You can't lose to an FCS school. And one of your wins is against Akron. And another one's against Kent State. Like, you have 2 wins that barely count as a win. Number 7 is UMass. I don't need to say anything else. 7 is actually a vast improvement.
That's pretty generous. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a vast improvement for UMass. Good job, UMass. They just beat Merrimack the other week. Gosh. 6 is Nevada. Nevada actually was holding down the fort at number 1 for a long time this year, but they beat San Diego State and New Mexico. So good for Nevada. Again, you lost to Idaho. And I love the Kibbe Dome as much as anyone, but that's terrible. Then at number 5, I have Sam Houston. Now, this team, again, brutal because they've lost a lot of one-score games. They just could barely win, but they needed a walk-off to beat Kennesaw State. And then they beat Louisiana Tech. Now, that is 2 in a row. So they're probably my team that I'm like, you really fly up these rankings pretty quickly if you win one of those last 2 games. And then number 4 is Louisiana Monroe. Man, I love you guys, but you're killing me. Army and Lamar, come on. This is my most disappointing team next. UConn, number 3, 1-9.
Yeah, that was sad.
Their only win is against Rice, which is actually one of the better wins on this whole list. Somehow. But bad, man. They're also getting crushed in these games too. They're not even close. They do finish the season off with Sacred Heart, which is FCS. Yeah, Catholic school. And then UMass. So they could win one of those games. Hopefully they don't lose to Sacred Heart. My goodness, they might have a chance still at that top spot. Number 2 is Akron. Akron is bad, real bad. And they're only at number 2 because they beat number 1, who is Kent State. And that's not really even close. Their only win is against Central Connecticut, and that was a tight game. They play Northern Illinois. Maybe they could have a chance against Northern Illinois. Like, I guess we'll see. But losing that wagon wheel game against Akron was kind of my national championship in this ranking. So thank you for indulging me, everyone. Yep. Cheer these teams on. They need your support. They need to do much, much better next year.
Yeah.
We want good football.
Yep.
Yes. But all football is good football.
Yeah, all
good football. Yeah, all college football is good football. Amen.
Yeah, Bears and Panthers, not good football. Just terrible. Well, listeners, thanks for jumping on. As I said, enjoy your Thanksgiving week. We got a good NFL slate. I know we didn't talk about it, but we have a Super Bowl / Kelsey Bowl rematch between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football. So that's a pretty good game. We'll keep that rolling. And obviously, we definitely tend to talk more NFL kind of post-Thanksgiving when college football, at least the regular season, is out of the way. We've got bowl games, obviously. So that's coming. I know we haven't touched on the NFL quite as much. Michigan, you're partly to blame for that. So enjoy that. Shout out to Miami for hosting Johnny and I last night at MACtion. That was awesome. If you want to hear about how the Redhawks claimed a MAC East championship last night. Hit us up on our website, fifthandgoalsports.com. That article recap is there. We've got some videos up on social media. There's also our college basketball brackets. If you want some confusing brackets, they're available on our website. So go check that out. There's a lot happening. There's feast week in college basketball. We're getting close to rivalry week in college football. We just keep moving along. MLS quarterfinals, that's coming up too. It's a good time of year. Good time of year. So we'll see you all in a couple of weeks. But in the meantime, like as always, you can hit us up on social media. We're throwing out random nonsense out there at Fifth and Goal Sports. Unless you're on Twitter, then it's just at Fifth Goal Sports. So thanks for listening. We'll see you all soon. Have a good one.